You know that feeling when someone hands you a list of numbers and you just kind of stare at it? It can feel like a total jumble of information with no real story to tell. Well, today we're going to fix that. We're going to learn how to make any set of numbers reveal its secrets, clearly and visually.
So, take a look at this list of numbers from our source material. Right now, they're just numbers. What do they even mean? Is there a pattern hiding in there? It's pretty much impossible to tell just by looking. This is what raw data looks like, and honestly, it's waiting for us to give it some meaning.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Every single dataset has a story, a hidden pattern, or some key insight that's just waiting to be discovered. Our job is to find the right tool to unlock it.
So, let me introduce you to the hero of our story today, the histogram. It's a surprisingly simple, but believe me, incredibly powerful tool for turning all that numerical chaos into a picture you can understand in, like, seconds.
The real magic behind a histogram starts with this one simple concept, the interval. An interval is just a range that you choose to group your data into. Think of it like this. If you have a big pile of different sized rocks, you might create buckets for small, medium, and large ones, right? Well, intervals are just sorting buckets for your numbers. It's that easy.
So, how do we actually build one of these things? It's way easier than you might think. We're going to walk through it step by step, and you'll see just how straightforward this process really is.
It really just boils down to 3 simple steps. First, you decide on your sorting buckets. Those are your intervals. Second, you go through your list and tally up how many numbers fall into each bucket. And third, you just draw bores to represent those counts. That's literally it.
Okay, let's put these steps into action with our first set of numbers. This data, from our source, tracks the weekly visitor counts at a church over 8 weeks. Remember that jumble from the beginning? It's time to bring it back and finally give it some order. And here is where that order starts to appear. See, we've chosen intervals of 10. So that number 45, it goes in the 40 to 49 bucket. The 4 numbers in the 50s, they all land in the next one, and so on. Instantly, all that chaos is replaced by this nice, clean frequency table.
And boom, there it is. This shows the whole point. The story was hiding there in plain sight. Most weeks, the visitor count was somewhere between 50 and 59. That's the main takeaway, the pattern we were looking for, and it just popped right out at us once we organized the data.
Now, this method works for all kinds of data, of course. To see just how flexible it is, let's check out a couple more examples from our source document. The goal here is to see how different types of data might need a slightly different approach.
All right, our next example tracks the number of minutes students spend in prayer each day at a Bible camp. Just like before, we're starting with a simple list of numbers, but this time, you'll notice the numbers are clustered a bit closer together.
So for this one, we're using intervals of 5 minutes. Now, this is a key decision. We used intervals of 10 before, but with this data set, smaller intervals of 5 give us a much more detailed view. See, the size of your interval can totally change the story your histogram tells. Go wider for a broad overview or narrower for a closer look.
And here's the insight this gives us. If you look at the table, the first 3 groups all have the highest count. So the big takeaway is that the most common duration for prayer was somewhere in that 10 to 24-minute window. Again, a clear pattern pulled from a messy list. But what if your data is packed even more tightly together, without a wide range at all? Well, a final example, this time looking at the ages of youth group members, shows us a different approach for exactly this situation.
This right here is a really important practical tip. If your data is all spread out, like our visitor counts that ranged from 45 all the way to 70, then grouping them into intervals makes a ton of sense. But if your data only has a few unique values, like ages from 13 to 17, it's often way better to just group by each individual value instead. And you can see exactly what I mean here. Instead of an interval like 13 to 14, we're just counting the number of 13-year-olds, then 14-year-olds, and so on. This gives us a much clearer picture, showing that ages 13, 14, and 16 are the most common in this particular group. So we've learned how to build a histogram, but let's zoom out for a second. Why does this simple little chart matter so much? What's the big picture here?
Our source document really puts it perfectly with this big idea. Histograms aren't about every single little number. They're about seeing the overall shape, the trends, and the patterns that only emerge when you group the values together. So, what are the key takeaways? It's simple, really. A histogram transforms a confusing list into a clear visual story. It instantly shows you what's common versus what's rare, and it helps you understand the overall shape of your data in a single glance. It's just a powerful tool for instant understanding.
And that leaves us with a final thought. We are surrounded by numbers every single day, in the news, at our jobs, and our hobbies. Now that you have this tool to make them talk, the only question left is, what stories are you going to choose to uncover?